Memorial Day. We're out doing a little recon on a tournament we've got later in the summer here, and in this video today we're going to talk a little bit about how to do some mapping. We've got the side image sonar running right now, and we're running through some waypoints we've got on this lake where we know there's a particular rock hump in the middle of this lake. I'm actually going to record the sonar log, and that's what I'm doing now. We've gone back and forth a few times with the side imager on with this Garmin unit, and we're recording the sonar logs, and we're recording this rock bar, and we're coming up on it again here, and I've gone over it 2 or 3 times, and we're going to show you in this video today how to piece together and seam together these off of this unit, but to be able to piece this unit, these structures together, so that you can get a better understanding and a plan view when you've got to zip together several seams of side image in order to precisely fish this. And you can kind of game plan these sites out. You've got some side image sonar data that you can seam together in plan view, and that's what we'll show you how to do today. So please like and subscribe, and you'll learn a little bit more about how to seam together a plan view of your spots ahead of fishing your tournament, so that you've got a better idea on how to precisely pick apart, how to approach this particular piece of structure, and then how to fish it. Where are the key spots on it? Because a lot of times the big boulders off the front of the rock bar are the really sweet spots on the spot. So stay tuned. Okay, so we were on the lake, recorded our sonar logs, and when you're riding along on the lake and you record a sonar log, you can see what's on your left, you can see what's on your right. I usually set it for 50 feet, usually no more than 75 feet, even sometimes 60, to get as much detail as possible. I record those logs, but sometimes I can only see when I'm recording what's on my left and what's on my right, but in pieces. So I'll hit part of the cover structure, and then I'll swoop around and I'll hit part of it coming back. And then maybe I even stop and pause the screen and make a couple of waypoints for fishing for that day. But I never really get a full understanding of what that whole thing looks like. And maybe not see all the fish on it when you're riding around, because the screen's moving, you're looking at cover, you're looking at structure. You might see some fish, you might not. But I guarantee when you come back, if you record those sonar logs for a good looking spot and then analyze them afterwards, you can really see how they lay out, you can see how fish relate to them, and you can do a better job at being strategic when you go back to fish that spot again. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here. So I use a few different softwares when I come back. You know, your unit on your boat, your Garmin unit, and I've got the 9 and the 7. I bought them for ice fishing. I brought them onto the boat, working very well. So I use the Garmin products. They allow you to record sonar logs. Humminbirds allow you to record sonar logs. Lowrances, you can record sonar logs. So I get the side image data, I get the sonar logs for the spot. I find a key piece of cover and structure, and I record it. Now when I get home, I use a program called Sonar TRX. And what Sonar TRX does is it takes every one of those little individual strips that you recorded, you just keep zooming around, every one of those strips, and it seams it together. And in seaming it together, it'll export a coordinate controlled mosaic image of that spot. And that's irreplaceable in order to see what's going on. So I use Sonar TRX to seam together all of those individual paths or routes that I was using when I was recording the sonar log. And one thing to note when you're recording your sonar log, do not make sharp turns. When you're turning your boat around a structure, make real gradual turns, and if you turn too sharp, it can distort the side image view, and you get that recording then. So I make real gradual turns when I'm recording, and then I try to keep, try to keep the file sizes relatively small. So Sonar TRX, you end up importing your GDB files or your Garmin database files or whatever your sonar log file is, you'll import it into Sonar TRX. And then there's a little bit of processing, and that's for a different video, but definitely I'll show in the comments below a link to the Sonar TRX program, and we'll do something at a different time on what settings I use in Sonar TRX. But Sonar TRX, you import your Sonar log files in there. There's a couple of post-processing things you do, setting up your mosaic image, and then you export that image, and it exports as a coordinate controlled image file. And so what I do next then is I take that coordinate controlled image file and I bring that into a GIS program, Geographic Information System program, and the one that I use is called Manifold GIS, and I've got that in the description below, a link to Manifold GIS, and I'll do a separate piece on how I do my processing in Manifold. But in Manifold, I import that coordinate controlled mosaic image, and then I am able to take that coordinate controlled mosaic image and do some other drawing layers on that will help me when I go back to fish my tournament spot. And we'll talk a little bit about that next. Okay, we're back in our Manifold GIS program. We've got our coordinate controlled mosaic image of our side scanned seamed together view that we got out of Sonar TRX in our Manifold GIS program. And now we're able to create some drawing layers, and I create a couple of drawing layers. I create an extent drawing layer where I'm really just outlining the extent of the feature that I'm fishing. So if it's this rock bar, I want to know the exact shape of the rock bar, so I make an extent file, a drawing, and I do that right over the top. And then I'll make a point file, basically, of digitizing all of the boulder locations. And then I'll make a point file digitizing whatever fish I see on that plan view of the sonar log. So now I've got the extent, I've got the cover on the structure, and then I've got the way the fish are relating to it. And so now I'm able to, after I do that manipulation in GIS, now I can export from my GIS to a format that's acceptable to other programs that I can use to take back to the lake. So now I'm able to export from my GIS program, and I'm going to export to a format that Google Map accepts as a custom Google Map layer. Now for my business, electronicguideservice.com, that's also in the description below, I make custom Google Map layers. That's part of the product that we use. I've done some advanced site imaging, I've done digitizing, and I've post-processed and put those in a custom Google Map format. But if you know how to use these three programs, you can do the same thing yourself. So I take that extent, I take those boulders, and I take those fish, those three individual files. I export those then into Google Maps, or into a format rather that Google Maps accepts as an import. And then within Google Maps you can create your own map, and in that map you can import the file types. You can import the KMLs that you exported from the Manifold GIS program. And so now I import those files into Google Maps, and we'll do a separate piece on Google Maps. But then you're left with a product that you're able to bring out and use on your cell phone or a tablet. You don't have to try to load them back up onto your graphs, and most graphs have a track log limit, and they've got waypoint limits, and you go to Google Maps, you can customize and to your heart's content, and is a powerful tool then to be able to bring back out. So I use my cell phone essentially on a ram mount on the front of my boat with my Garmin Panoptix Livescope unit. I've got my Humminbird down imaging in the front, and then I've got access to the extent, the boulder areas, and the fish setup areas right on Google Maps. And then as I approach this spot, I'm able to think about, how do I want to approach this to get a cast? Do I want my crankbait to hit all of the rocks in a long line and maximize the bottom contact that I'm making? Or were the fish set up in such a way that the bait needs to approach them in a certain way? Or is the wind blowing or the current blowing across this structure and cover in a way that sets the fish up? And now that you know how this thing lays, you'll be able to then react to the conditions you're presented with when you get out there. It's a powerful, powerful tool, I think, in to understand what's going on out there. Because a lot of times guys will get out to a spot and they're standing above it and they're just winging it. They know they got rock under them, they know they've caught fish there before, they're not really sure where they are on it, they're not really sure where the big boulders are, they're not sure how the fish are setting up, they're just kind of shooting in the dark. And now with site imaging and Livescope, You can see things better. So now I swing my live scope around and okay, all right, well, there's those big boulders. But still, knowing where you are in respect to everything else that's on that, it can be critical to catching fish or not catching fish, being lucky or being strategic and being effective. So it's a lot of extra work actually, but I think if you're a person that pays attention to detail and really wants to understand what you're fishing, and maybe be more precise when you get there to be more efficient with your time, this is a methodology you might want to try out. So we've gone over some highly technical things. We'll break each one of those down in separate videos. I think it's it'll be important for anybody that follows this channel to maybe know a little bit more, dive in deeper into Sonar TRX, dive in deeper, maybe even before that, into the upload, the saving, and the the SD card transfer process, and the manifold GIS process, and the export and import for Google Maps process. I'll do a video for each one of those three things, but I wanted to get this first one out there so that you could see the end product, because if you see the end product, then you might be inspired to learn the three steps to get there. And we'll follow up too on the effectiveness of that information to us as it relates to tournaments that are coming up, because we've got a number of them and we plan on doing this. We'll search until we find key stuff. We'll do this sort of homework on that key stuff, and we'll develop a game plan and try to fish it smartly and effectively when we get there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. We'll do more technical videos like this to try to get a glimpse into a little bit about what EGS Fishing, electronicguideservice.com, is about. But it really is being more precise with the tools that we've been given, and utilizing them all in a way that helps us be more efficient on the water.